Hello and welcome to Fact Hunters. Today we're going to be finding out what would happen to our species in the hours, days, months and years following an all-out nuclear apocalypse. The idea of a nuclear apocalypse has floated in the imagination of fiction writers since the Cold War, when it was a real threat to both East and West. Games, books and movies have all explored the different possibilities and scientific predictions about what would and what could happen. To be clear, we're talking about a situation where all nuclear-capable nations on Earth launched as many nuclear weapons as they could before they were destroyed. To put it in perspective, there are currently estimated to be 22,000 nuclear weapons internationally, with 90% of those being held by the US and Russia. Numbers are never 100% accurate, however. China's numbers are largely unconfirmed, and some estimates of the true arsenals of nuclear-capable nations put the numbers at almost 10 times that. Also, please remember that everything we're discussing here today is theoretical. So, the sirens sound, panic ensues, cities are wiped out in blinding flashes of light. What happens to Earth, to humanity, to you? Firstly, if you're in any major city throughout the world, it's pretty much game over. Missiles and bombs wouldn't necessarily destroy the entire city in one hit, but the resulting radiation clouds would completely cover the area. Some of the impacts would be big enough to cause natural disasters. Indeed, some would be targeted for exactly that. Volcanoes, fault lines and natural gas reserves would all be targeted to maximise the destruction. The smoke and radiation rising into the lower atmosphere would be blown into vast clouds covering entire continents. The cloud and dirt would block out the sunlight, plunging us into a nuclear winter. Those who survived the initial blasts and radiation clouds would venture out of their shelters, hopefully. After about a week, a rain would begin to fall. The moisture falling from the clouds would be black with soot and radiation, and this is what would do the real damage. Great swathes of land would become infertile for centuries, and those who survived the initial blast would quickly succumb to radiation sickness as their food and drinking water was contaminated. Those that were left would likely have absorbed enough radiation to cause mutations and cancer later in their lives. Human and animal lifespans would be drastically shortened. Contrary to popular opinion, cockroaches would be among the first to die out. Their supposed ability to resist radiation is actually non-existent. With no infrastructure left, humans would be forced to return to hunter-gatherer style living. With the ground devoid of nutrients, cultivating plants successfully would be almost impossible, and defending it from other human groups even harder. Remaining society would break down into groups and niches, with survivors eking out their own territory and fighting for control of resources. A bare minimum of each species would survive, with most dying out altogether. After 5 years, Earth's temperature would begin to lower significantly, causing dangerous weather conditions. The ozone layer would stretch thin, increasing the levels of UV radiation. The change in weather would produce frosts, which shorten crop growing seasons throughout the year. Plant life would die out as a result, with many species being unable to adapt. Those that were left would develop into tough, inedible plants. The main challenges to surviving the fallout would be decontaminating drinking water. If survivors were able to safely remove radiation from their water, they could likely grow fresh crops and raise animals. New evidence from analysis of plant life in the area of Chernobyl, which exploded in 1986, have shown that common plants are much more able to adapt to radiation than previously thought. The proteins of plants in the area are able to change so that they thrive in the radiation. It's hard to predict exactly what would happen in a catastrophic event. Historic case studies such as Chernobyl and Hiroshima focus around the effects of one single blast or event, whereas this scenario is on a much grander scale. The worst case scenario, apart from human extinction from radiation sickness, is that the planet itself could be damaged to the point it was at before single-celled organisms evolved. Catastrophic damage to fault lines could cause tectonic plate movement on a scale not seen since the planet formed. Colossal supervolcanoes could appear, covering entire continents and explode, producing enough heat to evaporate oceans and completely changing the surface of the Earth. In such a destructive circumstance as this, it's unlikely that any life would survive. Indeed, the Earth would regress several billion years and the entire story of our planet would start again. So that's the end of the video. Let us know in the comment section below what you thought of this. I think we can start a pretty detailed discussion. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and check out last week's video where we answered the question, what would happen if humans disappeared from the Earth? Make sure you subscribe to our channel for more videos which we release 3 times a week. Thanks for watching.